What's happening, everybody? PBR. No, just some Pepsi. How is everybody doing this wonderful Tuesday evening? We're officially into spring, and it sure doesn't feel like it, man. I bring winter back. Winter was a heck of a lot better than what this spring is. But you know what? We'll take it. Water is starting to come up a little bit. I think we're up probably about 6 to 8 inches. So it's a good start. We got about another 55 inches to go. We're probably 65 or 75. You know, we're down a long ways. So it'll be interesting to see on how the hatch turns out. I think we're going to be okay. A lot of fish spawning in the river. But the biggest problem now is that cold water again. Same thing that kind of happened last year. Is we got warm and the fish got ready to spawn. They did their thing. Granted, they were up in the marshes where the water was shallower and could cool down a lot quicker. But here we are, kind of going backwards a little bit. Even some of the lakes out by Watoma had a skim of ice on it the other day. I was pretty surprised to see Silver Lake completely skimmed over again. So, it's getting cold at night, which we don't want. We want it to go back up. But I think with all this water, the rain and stuff we've got coming here, and a little bit warmer days, we'll start. At least it'll stay steady. We just don't want any major cold fronts or a lot more snow. I know up north they got a bunch, and even around Wapaka got a lot more than what we did down here. So. Just some crazy things, crazy Mother Nature stuff, and nothing we can do about it. Water ban, yeah, I can believe that. All this north wind too. Every day it's blowing north, northeast, northwest, north. We're not getting any of that southern flow right now to help keep things warm, but it'll come. I'm okay with it prolonging, especially for all my white bass guys that are coming up here in May. I was getting a little scared that everything was going to stay in the 60s and 70s, and these white bass were going to come up into the river and start spawning here, in April, a month ahead of time. And who knows, it may still happen late April, but we need water. So bring on the rain, and that's all we can ask for right now. A lot of things happening. I've been just kind of keep you guys updated. Right now, we're tentatively. I know I keep saying this, but I got to work around the DNR's schedule, and I don't want to take too much time away from these guys. They work a hectic schedule, and trying to get them to commit to an evening, can be pretty hard. One guy's okay with it. He doesn't, he's not married and don't have kids, but the other guys, they got kids and families and stuff like that. So just trying to get them on board. And right now we're tentatively looking at Thursday of next week to have the Q&A session with the game warden. So they should be sending me an email here in the next couple of days. I'll touch base with them and we'll finalize that, and that should be a good show. Then next, I want to get Rasmussen on and let him kind of give the recap of the Classic. How many people watched that over a weekend? That was pretty darn exciting, if you ask me. I'm not a big bass guy, and it was fun. It was fun to watch. My wife was a little bored, but she said it was like watching golf. But it just exciting. I mean, to have guys, especially Jay Shakurit and Adam doing as well as what they did, on a national stage, world stage, and to come in second and fourth. for a couple Northern Wisconsin boys. It's pretty awesome to see, and they'll be back. I can guarantee you that. Adam's a heck of a fisherman. He said, though, he's just a walleye guide that kind of turned to bass, and I guess it's never too late to chase your dreams, and he's proved it. So congratulations to those guys again. A lot of cool stuff there. Speaking of that, I'm going to be getting my hands on some of this new line that was released down at ICAST here, or not ICAST, down at the Classic from Seagar, and the JDM products, or the Japanese market, is some pretty crazy technology happening, and Seagar is going to introduce some new lines, or they did introduce some new lines. And if you're a braid guy and you're really technical and looking for something that is going to cut the water and remain extremely strong, but super thin diameters. When SmackDown first came out, their diameters were crazy thin. But then I think what happened is there was so much complaints from people that an everyday angler that picks up SmackDown is probably going to have some issues with it. It's not a line for everybody. I'm going to tell you that right now, especially with this new JDM stuff. Not a line for everybody. It is for the guys that are very technical, very, I don't want to say professional, but, that know how to fish braid and are looking for something that is going to give an edge, I guess, to the angler. And this JDM stuff, what it is, again, in Japan, over there, a lot of people fish. A lot of people, fish bass. But the problem is there's not a lot of lakes, and everything gets pressured. So with that, you have all these crazy, Japanese guys coming over to the States, kicking everybody's tail because they're using a lot of stuff that the Americans have never seen before. They're using line that is damn near microscopic. They're using different types of baits, so a lot of stuff that is, almost completely natural, and they're really innovating a lot of the bass fishing stuff. I wish they had walleyes over there, because then I know they'd be innovating walleye stuff. But the thing of it is, guys, is that just like what we do here, I use a lot of bass techniques for walleye fishing. I've really gone away from the live bait and different standard walleye techniques, and started fishing them more with bass stuff and and different artificials, and there's a lot of really nice stuff out there. But back to this line, they in Japan, they have to figure out how to get these fish to bite. So obviously in clear water and whatnot, bass and other fish are very line shy. But the other thing with it is, line, the thicker the line, the less natural these baits can move. So when you're starting to fish really tiny finesse stuff, in crazy structure and weeds and brush, using a monofilament or a straight fluorocarbon can be difficult, because the strength is matched with a diameter. So obviously, if you had a 2-pound fluorocarbon, you're not going to be pulling 5-6 pound bass or walleyes out of brush in something, a thin fluorocarbon or a thin monofilament. But this braid is, 2-pound diameter, 1-pound diameter, but a 14, 19 pound strength, ridiculously strong for how thin this stuff is. They're saying, I was talking to one of the guys and getting, real numbers, and they're saying, the equivalency is about 30% thinner than what the counterpart is, in a normal braid. So let's just say like a 19 pound, I think, is one of the diameters that they have, is close to like a 2-pound diameter in a monofilament or a fluorocarbon. So really thin, and it's going for river fishing and jig fishing up in the weeds. I cannot wait to be able to use this stuff, because you're going to be able to cast this stuff a mile, using like really 32nd ounce jigs, and fishing these things far away, getting them away from the boat. You're going to be able to cast these things, and you're not losing strength, you're not losing sensitivity. The color is like a pink color, which I've been asking, and kind of looking for a long time. I love the flash green, but it's the thing with green is especially when we get into time when it's when the algae is around, it disappears. You can't really see it against the against the green algae on top of the water, and I love watching my line. Or if you're fishing up in the cane beds or fishing weeds, a lot of times, that if your line's up in the air and you've got a green background and green line, it'll kind of dissolve and, blend in with the background, and it makes it a little bit harder. So the pinks and the oranges, I think, are going to show up really good. And this happens to be a pink. So I know I'm going to be getting some here. Hopefully I can meet up with the guys this week and put it on and try it and show you guys. But one of the questions, but does it bind really bad in a spool when pulled tight? I can't answer that. I think the spools come in like 220 meters, I believe, or 219 meters. It's all weird stuff. It's all Japanese stuff because where it's coming from. But going back to what the original Smackdown was, that 10-pound braid before it went to the flash green, the diameter on that stuff was stupid crazy thin, and I didn't have any problems with it. It cut the water really nice. I loved it for vertical jigging in the river or just fishing in the river in general because there was no bow in your line. If you wanted to vertical jig, I could definitely go down a size or two in jigs and stay vertical and not have to worry about it. So, and obviously the name of the game is to go small. Fish it if you're fishing at 3/8 or half to try and stay vertical. I was getting away with like a 5/16 or a quarter, just because of the amount of resistance that's on normal line. So once I get some and get it on a spool, we'll use it, try it out, and I'll give an honest review. But these bass guys have been using it and they absolutely love it, and there's good reasons for it. Brian was saying problem with pink I've seen after a few uses it turns white. So this JDM stuff, it's not going to fade. This stuff here, they're saying, and guys have been using it now for over a year, and this stuff does not fade whatsoever compared to some of the other stuff. Yes, this dyed line, and even my Smackdown after a summer of use, turns kind of white, and a lot of those colored braids use a dye and wears off, and get green on your fingers when you're spooling and green on the roller bearing, and it's just one of those things you kind of got to deal with. But they're saying this pink stuff has zero fade whatsoever. And then they've got some fluorocarbons also. I'm just going to bring it up here and I'll show you what we got. Let's see. So they've got let's see, the CR PX, the X8. Where's our diameters? Sorry guys, I'm just on the website trying to grab a screenshot here if they have it, if I can find it. So it'll be 200 meter spools with a 12, 16, 18, 21, 24, and 33 pound tests. If I can find the diameter, like the 18 pound is 0.006, which I believe is equivalent to like a 2 pound fluoro. It's crazy thin, and it's an 8-strand braid, so it's extremely durable. Obviously, no stretch. And then the other thing too, for guys that really like the using fluorocarbon or can't get away from the mono, that type of a line, they do have the new R18, which is a mainline fluorocarbon. So you don't not just a leader, you're actually spooling your lines up with the fluorocarbon. And again, knot strength, castability. It's a double structured fluorocarbon, and so it's going to be really soft. You're going to be able to tie really good knots with it. It's not going to be brittle, and just an all-around great main line if you all you're using is like a fluoro or mono depending on obviously your fishing styles. And that one there is going to come 4 through 20 pound test. And it's got some kind of like non-traditional sizes, like a 5, 7, and a 14 pound test. So I know that 5 and 7 will probably be good, especially for, I'm going to use it for obviously for ice fishing too, but some really neat stuff. If you guys get a chance, take a look at it, and like I say, once I get it, I will do a full review and show you guys kind of what it looks like. And the other thing too, I forgot to mention, is that it is it's metered. So on the braid, it'll have like I believe, I don't know if it's every 5 meters. So there'll be just a little bit of a color change, or like a mark. I don't know, say 6, 8, 10 inches long or whatnot, that you can use for checking or whatever. Just another kind of feature. Probably more so for guys that are going to be using it fishing, forward facing sonar, counting their marks. I don't know. Let's see. So yeah, I mean, super exciting stuff. I know it's going to be pretty innovative, and for guys that love fishing braid, it's going to be expensive. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's not a line for everybody, but if you're that tournament guy and you're that guy that wants the edge, I think you're looking at like $37 to $40 a spool roughly for a 200 meter spool. So a little bit pricey. But it's good stuff. I mean, you're going to get what you pay for. Yeah, Travis, the lead core changes for obviously if you're running 2 colors or 3 colors, and each section is a certain distance. This is going to be more like okay, you get 5 meters and there's going to be a mark, and then you get 5 meters, then there's a mark. It's all going to be pink, and then once you get different marks, you'll be able to kind of monitor your line. I'm sure people have reasonings and different things for that, and we'll figure that out, I guess, as it comes. Bill asked, with that thin of diameter, what is the best knot to tie for fluorocarbon? So that's a great point, and I tell you what, I am going to I'm going to shoot some videos here this week, just because of the crappy weather. And I'm going to show you a couple different braided knots with the braided line and fluorocarbon or monofilament that you guys can try out and use for yourself. Some pretty different, unique knots. And with that thin line, you're definitely going to want to make sure you got something strong that's wrapped around the hook. And we'll cover that, and we'll have something up here, this week. That'll be good. Guys using leaders with this, Brian, with how thin this stuff is, I think in certain situations you're not going to use a leader or need to use a leader. But the thing of that is because it's so thin, I think you're going to want to use a leader. Especially if you're fishing around rocks and whatnot. Fluorocarbon, the reason we use fluorocarbon is because it's very abrasive resistant. Where this stuff here, once it hits a sharp object or hits like a zebra mussel, it's so thin, I don't think it's going to take much to cut it. So you're going to want to use, keep using a leader. The reason you're using this stuff is for castability and for being able to, cut through the water. And just the presentation aspect of it. But if you're fishing jigs on the bottom, I can see if you're casting crankbaits or working jerkbaits and stuff like that. I don't see a reason to really have to use a leader for something like that if you're not going to be bouncing off rocks or really dragging the line on the rocks. But if you're jigging on the rocks, you're definitely going to still want to run a fluorocarbon leader just for the abrasion resistance. That's the main reason. Remember the Willie trolling line, blue marks line every 10 feet. Tim, was that back in like the black and white TV days? Because I don't remember that. I think you're a little bit older than I am, not much. No, Tim, I don't remember that. I do remember, back in the days there was, tip-up line that was metered, and that was nice because you could, kind of know exactly where everything was. And even to this day, I still have, I'll take like a bobber stop or something and put it somewhat close, so I know, all right, I've only got like 20 feet left, just to kind of give you somewhat of an idea. But no, I don't remember the Willie line. Just going back and reading through. Brian asked anything for trolling. So Brian, I've been running the Invisex for trolling, or the AbrazeX. They got what, 600 yard spools in the AbrazeX, and that's kind of been my favorite for trolling. I've had zero issues with it. Allows me to get a little bit deeper than straight monofilament. I've been running a 12 pound, which is pretty equivalent to the same diameter as 10 pound. And boy, it's been 5, 6, 7 years now that I've been running that, and have zero issues. I really, really love using that fluorocarbon as my main line for my trolling rods. Not that I do a whole lot of trolling, but when I do use it, it's been great for me. All right, so we'll get to the line. I'll tie some knots and shoot some videos for you, and then or I'll post them here probably maybe even tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. So just check back on the page, and I'll show you a couple different knots. Now back to the fishing side of things. Fishing has been absolutely incredible. I mean, I don't know if I've ever remembered a year on the Wolf River like we have right now. A couple different reasons why. One, obviously, we don't have the water to get up into the trees, and these fish are pretty concentrated on certain areas. When they're in the marshes or when you got water in the trees, these fish can go everywhere. I mean, they get back in those trees and they don't have to come out for a month. But when the water's down and force these things into a river channel, it's super easy to find them, and they've been pretty easy to catch. Now, I know a lot of guys have been, I've been talking to, of saying they've been struggling and can't get fish, and get away from, the traditional what you would think, and utilize the electronics. The last Angling Buzz report, the video that we shot, kind of explained exactly what we're doing. And if you haven't watched it, I encourage you to kind of watch it. It gives you a pretty good idea on what we're doing. But we're just using the side imaging, and I don't think it really matters anywhere in the river right now, from the mouth all the way up through New London. Just drive around and look for shallow sandbars. I mean, if there's trees or if there's any bit of grass anywhere around, you're gonna find fish. And then when you find them, just cast to them. A lot of guys vertical jigging or sitting there pumping jigs. That pumping jigs thing drives me crazy, because I watch, everything we teach people when I'm in the boat is to keep your line taut. And what I mean by that is, when we're casting jigs, my rod tip really never goes down. You're always keeping that rod tip up and watching your line and keeping it tight and bouncing that jig along the bottom. What's up, bud? Okay, Xander's going to bed? All right. Good night, bud. Love ya.
I'm probably going to, since you probably are going to end at like 9 something. So.
All right. I had to whoop his rear end in some basketball this afternoon.
Yeah.
So when you're casting, and what I like to do is I'll find my spots along the side of the river, and what?
I'm just saying in case
Okay, good night. Find my spot, find my fish, and I'll go to the opposite side of the river and just cast perfectly perpendicular, maybe a little bit up current, and then just work your rod tip and work that jig. Let that thing kind of just bounce off bottom really slow and bring it back to the boat pretty slow. And every time that thing hits the bottom, you feel that little bit of a tap set the hook. It's just incredible right now how many fish are sitting behind these little humps or really tight up against shore. And do not be afraid to cast your jig on the shore and let it roll off the sand into the water, because a lot of these spots that that we're finding, the shoreline's got like a, I don't know, 1.5 2 foot straight drop right off the edges, and we're literally smoking these jigs into the sand where they kind of stick, and we'll just kind of slowly tap it. And as soon as that thing falls off the shoreline and falls into the water, boom, there's a fish on it. Your line's screaming north and going up river, and it's been pretty crazy. Timmy says, jigs and crawlers were working good 2 weeks ago already. Yeah, I mean, anything right now I think has been pretty decent. The other thing that is kind of unique is fish and frog, frog style baits. If you can find, if you're catching some fish and you find some frogs in your live well or in your stomachs, of these walleyes, don't be afraid to throw some frog style stuff. Even little lizards or whatnot, and try that. You'd be super surprised on how well that works. When we figured that out here a couple of weeks back, I painted up some jigs that were frog color patterns and using some plastics, and it's been dynamite. So kind of, again, going back towards that bass style techniques, and just fishing them, totally different than what I did 20 years ago. It seemed like 20 years ago you had to have a 3/8 ounce jig and a shiner and a stinger hook, and you just vertical jigged down the center of the river. I haven't done hardly any of that at all this year. Everything's been finding fish on the side imaging, stopping, casting to them, and working, pods of fish. And when, on the side imaging or on the 360, we're watching these schools of fish, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're gone. And it seems like when that happens, you get a sturgeon or two that come through. And as soon as those sturgeon are gone and off the screen, boom, those fish will kind of move right back into that area again. So, and when that happens, we'll just make little adjustments. We'll either slip down the current and find that pot of fish again, or go up river. And sometimes it's only a matter of 100 or 200 yards, and you get back on top of those schools and just start casting to them again. The nice thing about, don't you get away from the anchors. We use our spot lock on the Minn Kotas. That Ultrex is pretty nice for the river. We don't move. We don't have to worry about, setting anchors up and down. And if you guys have never played around with that spot lock, the newer stuff, it is amazing. And get yourself some good lithium batteries, and you don't have to worry about anchoring anymore. It's a game changer for sure. So that's kind of what we've been doing, throwing a lot of hair jigs, throwing just a lot of 1/8 ounce, 1/4 ounce stuff up in that 1.5 2 feet of water. And it's been a pretty awesome bite. And it really doesn't matter. We've been fishing some really, really windy days this year when guys have been struggling. And if you find these pods of fish and you can cast to them, if you can't feel the bite, you're definitely going to see it, because that your line just starts going 100 miles upriver, 100 miles an hour upriver when they suck onto it. So a lot of fun stuff. Casting in the river right now, and you're on shore. Yeah, Ray, that's why we say we find the fish on one side, go to the other side, and then cast to them. Or, we're making really small casts or really short casts to these fish, just because of how narrow the river is. Ray, as far as the temperature, the water temperature's dropped. That's one thing for sure, but it is starting to come up a little bit. And now that we had a bunch of rain and snow again here the last couple of days, and it's going to do is help bring the water up. I know a lot of the fish are still pretty green yet. There are some fish that are spawning. There are some spawned out females. There are some milkers, and probably slow down a little bit, but it's going to happen. And I think what will happen is these fish will get done here in the next couple of weeks. And, we'll get some rain, some runoff now, and just, help them flush them back out into the lakes. Now, I've got some friends that have already been fishing out on the Winnebago and getting some nice fish, along some of the rocks towards evening. So, yeah. Have you played with the finishers from Big? Yeah, Brian, I've got some, and you know, I think that's going to be more going when I get up to the Fox River. I think that's going to be a great bait for up there. I've tried throwing them in the river. I haven't had much success with them yet in the river, but it's totally different style of fishing than what we're used to up on the river. And I think if we had a high water and we could get into some of that slack water up in the trees like we do up by New London and Shiocton, I think those would be incredible baits. But we just don't have that this year to really try it effectively. I think it's going to be a great bait though this summer. I think there's going to be a lot of applications where we're going to catch a lot of fish on those things. So the trick is just finding them, right? They're sold out everywhere. And I've been watching, Berkeley's site. I've been watching the distributors, and seems like the only place you can get them right now are, like Shields and a couple of the bigger stores that, as soon as they get it, as soon as they find anything available, they're just buying them all. It's going to be a good bait. Going back to Winnebago, like I say, some guys are getting some fish towards the evening. Some, they're starting to spawn out on the lake right now as well. Reading some of the reports from the DNR and watching the Walleyes for Tomorrow guys, up on the Fox River. They've been shocking and getting some fish, very few fish, I should say. They were getting, if you guys hadn't seen that information that they posted from Walleyes for Tomorrow, some pretty crazy stuff that with the fyke nets when they were looking for pike, they were catching a lot of walleyes in the fyke nets that they were looking for pike. Oh, my buds are going to run out here. I'm going to switch. Okay. Still hear me? Ooh. So, at the end of the day, the walleye population's in great shape, and I've been saying that. I still don't believe that there was a need to go to this 3 fish limit. I think the walleye population's it's very healthy, and I think what's going to happen now is as we get into this population that's going to be in the go back to size here, I guess, talk about size. I don't know if I've caught anything in that 12-inch range where, spots I've been fishing. Everything we've been catching has been 15, 17, up to the mid-20s. I have not caught a 10, 12-incher pretty much all season. If you start fishing those deeper holes and you start fishing traditionally, yes, that's kind of where those smaller males have been, is in those deeper spots. But all the shallow water fish we've been getting have all been really, really nice fish. And some days we can't even catch, we're having a hard time catching any eaters. They're all, low to mid 20 fat females. Just still hard as a rock. Haven't really had anything that's been soft yet. Earlier on during that, 70 degrees, we had a couple warm ones, and a couple fat females that were, pretty right, but nothing as of late. Everything's been pretty hard, and the males have been milking. So that's kind of been one thing too, is we've just kind of figured something out as far as all that shallow water fish has been a lot nicer fish. Jeff, 15-inch size limit should be back on for next year. That'll never happen, Jeff. There's no way they'll put another size limit, I think, on these fish. Go back and it's such a we won't get into it, but they tried it, and it put such a pinch point on our females that we're going to wipe out an entire female population. At that point, why not just go back to the 5 fish limit? The thing of it is our females grow so fast in this system that they're going to be the first ones to be caught. Once you hit 15 inches, you're going to kill everything that's 15 inches, and you won't have any females left because your males, your year classes will continue to go through the system, and your males will be 1.5 inches behind the females, 2 inches behind the females, and you're going to catch 15-inch females, put them in the boat, and all you're going to have left are those 13, 14-inch males. And they'll never go back to that 15-inch size limit. If they do, it's hypocrisy. I mean, it's just dumb. It's the stupidest thing they could ever do. And they know that, and they've said that. They can never go back to a 15-inch size limit in our system. Just won't work. Not unless you want to wipe out the entire population in a very short order. Slot limits, all that kind of stuff. They need to leave it be. I think, but what's going to happen is, all these fish, these 15, 17-inch, wait till this summer when everybody's catching all these big fish again. It's going to be an eye opener, I think, for a lot of guys. Is the 3 fish going to make a difference? I don't know. I think the food population, going to another thing that they're talking about, we want to talk about the Conservation Congress stuff right away. We've got the live scope issue, we've got the 15-inch size limit, we've got the white bass limit, all stuff, guys. The live scope thing, whatever, take it or leave it. Electronics are electronics. No different than arguing the fact of crossbows. Just make regulations for bag limits that match what is happening. Keep the regulation or keep the limits down. But how many of the 12 to 13 fish are female that are being kept by all the white bass guys that come from now? Jeff, most of those 12 to 13-inch fish are males. All those immature males come up the river and think that, they're just horny dogs, man. They're looking for any piece of rear end that they can get. So that's why all these 12 to 13-inch fish come up the river. Most of those are males. And that's just, like when Oshkosh loads up or the mouth of the river loads up, those 95% of those fish are all males. So they can, you can catch and keep all those little guys, and you're pulling a lot of males out of the system, but you're not really, hurting the females at all. Let's see, where were we at? I lost my train of thought here. Help me out, guys. We were talking size limits. Oh, darn it, I lost my train of thought. All right, so going back to the Conservation Congress stuff, these walleyes are getting, that's what we were talking, size. These walleyes are getting big, and guys I know love to catch perch. The perch on Winnebago has kind of become as big as what the walleyes have been. Now you've got these bigger walleyes come into the system, and they're going to be eating a lot of food. And what's going to happen, just like last year, in the last 2-3 years, at least the fish that I've been catching up in these shallow weeds, they're puking out giant perch. They're puking out bluegills. If you guys want to keep your perch and your bluegills and crappies and stuff going, we need to figure out how to kind of control these walleyes, because I think what's going to happen is these fish are going to start eating themselves when the food runs out, and it will. And we need to kind of monitor everything. And I hope I'm wrong. I'm just using my observations from what I've seen and been, doing the last few years. When everybody says the numbers of walleyes are down, they're not down. They've just moved. They've adapted to where the food sources are, and the food sources aren't out in the mud flats anymore because there's no shad. They're up in the weeds, and they're up shallow, and guys haven't been fishing up shallow. They're still going back to where Grandma and Grandpa took them 20 years ago when there was shad out in the lake. So, I know we've talked about this. I've kind of beaten a dead horse here, but I don't see the need, and I don't see the reasoning for, these changes. But now you want to talk about, going to a 25 bag limit on white bass. Oh my God. You want to see a fish that reproduces and can decimate a system as far as bait. watch the white bass. Those things are piranhas. And, for hundreds of years, the Wolf River system, the Winnebago system has been, you get the Fremont, the river run. And sure, there's cycles, some years you go back and look at numbers back in the 80s. The white bass numbers were really down in the 90s, and the 2000s came back to, astronomical numbers, and we're a little bit low right now. But I can tell you just from the last, 2-3 years, the numbers of fish that I've been seeing and catching have been higher than I've ever seen. I mean, I've been guiding for 23, 24 years, and the numbers of fish I see are crazy. Where do they go in the wintertime? I have no flipping idea. I mean, honestly, I know I find them, I see them in huge schools, but they're eating so many of those shiners, that hatch from the fall and, all fall long and into the winter. I think a lot of those fish stay in the river, and they don't have to go anywhere, especially the last couple of years with the low water, no current. Same thing with these walleyes. I know Larry Smith was up there. I had gone up there one day, on my snowmobile, but we couldn't get up there because the ice conditions were terrible. But there's, these fish go up the river in the fall to feed on those shiners, and they don't have to leave if there's no current. They don't have to really fight anything. There's food. The little bit of current that's there, they're not having to really struggle. So they just stay there, and, they just congregate in huge mass numbers. And as soon as we got the boats out in February, I mean, I remember, I think it was February 10th, we had the boat, the river, and we were going back down to the same spots we caught them, before it iced up in fall, and the fish were still there by the thousands. I mean, I've never seen a graph with 10, 12 feet of solid fish going through the Wolf River, and they were pretty much all walleyes, white bass. There was some sheephead mixed in, but just biomasses of fish. So you've got all these fish and all predatorial fish that are going to start eating bait. And if you can't keep them in control, and you start, just letting these fish go off and kind of explode and do their own thing, especially white bass, because they're so prolific, they multiply faster and more aggressive than any other fish that we have in our system. If you stop that, and stop the harvest of them and just let them run rampant, kiss this system goodbye, in my opinion. They've tried to do that, talking to some guys out on like the Potomac River and out east, trying to put limits on white bass. And, some of these biologists out there, I think our Wisconsin guys need to talk to them, because, they'll tell you exactly what's happened. They've tried it and it's failed miserably, and just, completely destroys an ecosystem. So again, I'm not a biologist, guys. I'm speaking just solely off of experience and what I've seen, and talking to people, not just around our area, but from all over the country. It's kind of one of the nice things about being in the fishing industry is you get to meet a lot of great people and different biologists from all over the country. And they all have, their same issues, and kind of, different than what we have. And it's nice to bounce ideas off and hear, stories and stuff that these guys have done. Look at Minnesota going to these panfish regulations. Jeff Hayner, the guys up at Infish doing all this bluegill stuff, how much that has affected on the positive side, how much, the Minnesota lakes have been just increasing in size, increasing in numbers. Stuff's really starting to come back. And some of the Wisconsin guys and lakes now are starting to do that. And it's great, especially with these electronics, going back to the whole live scope thing. And again, we've talked about this, is we need to, I would love nothing more than to see a 10 fish bag limit on all Wisconsin lakes for panfish. It would be wonderful. And just let it go. Everybody says, well, you can't do much with 10 fish. Well, how many guys go out and fish by themselves? That'll force you to bring your family out, which again is a great thing. Now you're getting the kids, the wife out because you want to go and, be that fish hoarder and, and catch 40, 50 fish. Great. Bring your kids out and do it. That's fine. And I'm a huge supporter of that. So again, we need to police ourselves. We need to, I think, change regulations. and decrease the bag limits. Everything I think will be just fine. When it comes time to this 3 fish limit, statewide, I think it's a good deal. But what it's going to do is it's going to force people to Green Bay, and you're going to see the walleye population on Green Bay take a major hit the further you go into these regulations. I think if you're going to do a 3 fish, I think you got to do Green Bay too. Do it statewide. Do it, all the rivers. Do it on Green Bay, and then everybody will be happy. Let's see what's going on here. Again, just my opinion, guys. You can hate me, love me, whatever, agree with me, disagree. And, that's the beautiful part of America is the free speech, right? Just speaking off of experience. But I totally disagree on that 25 fish deal with the white bass. In a matter of a year or two, you could have so many damn white bass in this system that there's not going to be anything left. And when you look at white bass, what they eat, kiss all your year-young walleyes and your year-young perch and bluegills, kiss all those things goodbye, because those white bass will be up in those shallows just devouring them. If anything, start looking at the seagulls. or not the seagulls, the pelicans. These things I've already been watching them, up in Bötehouse and Sunset and Asylum. All these big flocks of pelicans have moved in. And take some binoculars with you sometime and just go watch them and watch what they're eating. Perch, bluegills, crappies. Just nonstop. These things form big circles, big colonies, and they just start swimming together. And all of a sudden, as soon as you see their bills go down the water and they're flipping stuff up, they're catching all kinds of big fish, big bluegills and crappies and perch. Nobody's saying anything about that. That they need to. I get, circle of life, but it's also playing a huge factor, I think, on a lot of these fish. These pelicans, especially with this low water this year, they're gonna do a number on a lot of the spawning population of panfish. Cormorants also, yeah, exactly. Those cormorants. I remember reading that study that they did up on Green Bay, where I think was it 100 or 200 cormorants, or wherever, that they killed, and most of them had 3 to 6 mature perch. They had walleyes up to 22 inches in their stomachs. Catfish, 20, 21-inch catfish in their stomachs. And that's just one bird at one particular day. These things are eaten, once every 3 days, all summer long. And you guys have been up to the bay, know how many birds are up there in the fall. It's millions of cormorants up there. I can only imagine what they're doing to the perch and the walleye population. So, again, not the biologist, not the guy with the scientific answers, just visual studies. Just like, all the water levels and whatnot. Sure, their gauges and that might be saying one thing, but my eyes don't lie. And everybody making excuses that, if the ice was on the lakes or the snow was on the lakes and you couldn't really tell. Nah, total BS, because we've never seen sandbars wide open out in the middle of Lake Winnebago like we have this year. Or the river, the water levels in the river is low as what they are. All these people arguing the fact that this was normal. Just they weren't out there. They weren't seeing it for themselves. And if they can say that it was normal and want to argue that fact, they just haven't been on the water very much. But hopefully we're starting to get some rain and stuff will start moving forward, and we'll start getting some water. And we need a lot of water, a lot of rain to get us back to where we're at. And without any water, without any rain, just I don't know where it comes from. They say, oh, we're on track to have everything filled up for the boating season. Well, I don't know where they're getting the water from, because you need rain, and snow runoff, whatever, for the water to come up. And if we don't get that, it just doesn't magically, come out of nowhere. We definitely are seeing some crazy times. Even the lakes out here by me, Wapaka, Washera County, these guys never seen, the water as low as what it is on some of these places. So off that subject, it'll get better, and if not, we're going to be replacing lower units and props. I will say this: one day out on Winnebago, if anybody got a chance to see that big shove that was out by Garlic, that 30-foot wall of ice that was out there. I can tell you that it messed up the rock piles out there. It pushed a lot of stuff around, and same thing down by Long Point. So just be careful. I know once this water comes up and I can get close to it and really start to map this thing out, you guys are going to see that some of these shallow spots, the outer edges of these reefs have changed. There's going to be some walls of rocks that'll be that weren't there in years past. So it definitely going to change some things up, and I'm going to have to make a whole bunch of new waypoints and mark everything out again. So pretty crazy stuff. Let's see. Back to, I guess, kind of talking about fishing. Again, the walleyes have been incredible. Haven't seen any white bass yet. Been catching some suckers and got a few sturgeon, obviously, kind of moving up through the system. And just to kind of touch base on that, I don't want to get too crazy, but for people that just absolutely ridiculed me and got on me for taking a picture with a sturgeon, there is nothing illegal about it. And when we have the game wardens on, I've talked to him now a few different times. These guys like Kaiser, he's taken plenty of pictures for people that have caught sturgeon. There's nothing illegal. There's never been a law. Even the people that say, oh, there used to be a law where you couldn't, you had to cut the line. There's never been a law. There's never been anything out there that has said you have to, cut your line or you can't take a sturgeon out of the water. There's never been anything like that. It's been wives' tales. It's been folklore, rumors, but you can legally take a fish. If you catch one, now you can't go and fish for them. That's one thing you can't do. But if you catch one, you're on the river or you're out on the lake and you're perch fishing or you're walleye fishing and you snag into a sturgeon and you're lucky enough to bring them to the boat and can safely you get them in there, remove your baits and take a quick picture and put them back in, all the more power to you. Congratulations to you guys, and please share your pictures. I mean, it's crazy. Some of these guys that got on me were just, I don't even know what they were trying to say, and it's whatever. We'll leave it at that. You can take pictures of fish. Doesn't matter, if it's a muskie, a walleye, sturgeon, catfish. If it's out of season, you hook it. You just have to put it back. That's it. And just be mindful of it too, guys. Sturgeon, with their skin, or muskies, especially like the muskies. If you're going to bring a fish like that into the boat, make sure you wet your floor. If you're going to lay it on the floor or do something, just make sure you wet your floor, or you do something to preserve the slime on their skin. It's such a crucial part of their survival. There's a reason why when they come out of the water, pike and the bigger the fish, they create that slime. It's kind of like our sweat, right? It just protects them, and you don't want to remove that. Just keep everything nice and wet them down, and don't grab them by the gills. You see a lot of guys grab the sturgeon by their gills. Give them a bear hug, or hold underneath their belly and their tail. Take a nice picture and put them back. That's all we'll say about that. Travis, what size reels do you prefer? So a couple different, I'm pretty set on the 2500s, but on some of my finesse rods, my super light rods, I'll use that 1000 series. I'm kind of, very, that Vanford, that Shimano Vanford's been a pretty nice reel for me in the 2500, or that 2000 I think it is with the, kind of the same size as a 1000 reel, but it's got the spool size of a 2500. So that's kind of been my favorite. And then again, I've run pretty much all Seagar Smackdown braid 10 pounds for everything on the Winnebago system. When we go up to Green Bay and we're throwing some heavier lipless crankbaits, I'll run the 15 or 20 pound. And then for the most part, all my leader material for jigging and hair jigs and stuff on the river, I'm running a 10 pound gold label leader, which is pretty much the equivalent size of like an 8 pound. And then up on the bay with the lipless and different jigs and jerk baits and stuff like that, I'm running a 15 pound. So that's, pretty much across the board. Don't really use much mono or anything like that anymore at all. Let's see here. Any questions from you guys? I know I've kind of been yapping here quite a bit tonight, but if you don't forget, I think coming up here in April, that spring survey, from the DNR, please do your part, answer the questionnaires. It'll be live online, or, if you can get to, go on the website, and I'll even post it on mine. So it'll be easy for you guys to find. I'll post all the information on where, each county, each region where you can go to your spring hearings. You can listen to the discussions. You can chime in, be a voice. If you disagree with something, just sitting in the background and bitching about it online ain't going to do anything. Take part in these meetings and go and, express your concerns or your views, and fill out these questionnaires, and, make your voice heard. That's a beauty part of America. And if we don't, it's going to get, run over by people that really shouldn't be making laws. Yep, don't forget your fishing license this weekend, April 1st, guys. You need a new fishing license. They're available right now, so get done here. Get on the online and go get your license right online right now, and then you're done. And you don't have to worry about it. Anybody looking for a job driving a ship? Or driving container ships? I think there's probably some guys looking for some new drivers over in Boston, or was that Maryland, I guess. With some crazy stuff this morning. And when you watch that video, the crazy thing is you can see that these guys were panicking. That boat, the power goes off, and then it comes back on. You just see, the coal just burning, the big black smoke. I'm sure they were just, reverse. But I was listening to a couple of the captains talk, and what is that? I think they said like 90,000 tons, doing 8 knots takes about 2 miles to stop that boat, short of, throwing the anchor down. So, you're not going to stop a big boat like that, and just by throw it in reverse real quick. But feel bad for everybody. Prayers go out to all the people affected out there. Pretty sad deal, and it's going to screw up that area for a long time here. Now that they're going to have to rebuild that bridge, and that's a big part of 695. And I know we were looking at actually going out there this summer for vacation, and it was just crazy. Let's see. Andy says, good point. My son was just at Agami County Conservation Club for our Outagamie County Conservation Club and for hunter safety. And they basically said you need to be a voice and participate because their competition are non-hunting and non-fishing people. And we've got to overpower their voice for sure. You hit it on the head, Andy. I mean, that's exactly what's happening. And I'll contest that. All these different committees and different things that I've sat in on, all these, technical people that have major degrees and biologists and this and that, they've sure, they're smart. They've learned everything on the books, but they haven't been out on the waters. They don't understand that, these zebra mussels have cleaned up these lakes so much that we've got better weed growth. We've got, better bait fish. We've got, the gobies out on the bay. feeding the smallies and the walleyes and the perch. All this stuff that, they've said that is going to destroy our systems has done wonders for our systems. And, if we let these guys keep controlling us and letting them make rules and laws just off of, their scientific data or, stuff that's in a book, doesn't mean that it's practical in real life. And that pertains to a lot of stuff. So make your voices heard, express your concerns. And are there, some concerns that are feasible and, hold some merit? Absolutely. There's, again, going back to the panfish stuff, if we don't do something to combat, the electronics across the board, panfish are just the easy ones because that's what, is open year round, especially on the inland lakes. When the walleye season closes, everybody switches to panfish, and we need to, kind of control that. And a lot of the guys obviously are going and, hitting all their small lakes up north and out here in central part of Wisconsin, and they're just looking for, easy meals of fish, and the panfish are usually the first target. So we just need to protect them and rewrite the laws. And yeah, what's up? Oh, all right. So again, guys, just, I'll post all the information. Couple of, I guess, the things that I'll follow up on for you guys here in the next couple of days. I'll shoot some knot videos. Once I get that line, I'll definitely, report, show you guys, give a little bit of that. In the meantime, just go to Seaguar's website. Look at the JDM here. I'll type it in JDM. It's the Japanese, market is what it is. Lot of really nice stuff, and it's definitely going to help, especially for guys that really do a lot of finesse fishing. It's going to be amazing stuff to work with. I'm actually looking forward for ice fishing too, because that super thin diameter, you're not going to have any water being able to collect on that and freeze your line. So you're going to be able to fish some pretty light baits very effectively, and not have to worry about line freezing. So pretty cool stuff. And so we're going to shoot some video on some knots. I'm going to post all the information about the spring hearing stuff, and where you can go. Again, don't forget your fishing license, and launch fees, I believe, go up here. Yeah, March 31st is typically the last day for that. I don't believe Winnebago County or City of Oshkosh changed anything yet this year. I think they kept everything the same. I think it's next year they'll go to vote and probably end up raising the prices next year. Yeah, wind is howling tonight. That wind, it has been a windy spring so far. And like I was saying, everything seems like every day it's coming out of the north, northwest, northeast, just blowing hard. So, it makes the things a little bit difficult, and that's why we've been spending a lot of time, further up north on the river, just to get away from the wind and kind of tucking in behind some of the trees. Water's coming up, that's going to be a good thing. It's going to open up some more opportunities as far as, for the guys with bigger boats, getting boats in up by Gills and different parts of the river, because right now we're pretty limited on where we can actually launch boats. And the one day I tried to get north of Gills, or north of Goose Landing, and you can't. I mean, it's impossible. It's unpassable right now with pretty much any boat. I've seen a couple really small duck boats or mud motors squeak their way through, but that sandbar, that sand flat that's right above Goose, above Partridge Crop, there is only like 6 to 8 inches of water, and no boats can even get through that area. I got beached, I got stuck, and I watched a lot of other guys try and get through there too, and just a no-go. So if you're trying to go up there from down south, don't waste your time. Go up above and then come back down if you want to get down to the south end of New London, and that's what we had to do. Launch up by, you got to pretty much launch right in New London and then take the boat down, because Shaw's and what was the other landing that's up there, you can't get any big boats up in there. The pads are too shallow. So just a word of advice. But I appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. Stay tuned. Again, next Thursday we'll probably have the podcast instead of Tuesday. Maybe we'll even do something. Maybe we'll do 2 next week. We'll see how things go. But everybody have a happy Easter and enjoy time with family and friends. Get out, do a little bit of fishing, and we'll catch you guys on the water, or we'll catch you guys next week. Appreciate you all, and have a good night, everybody.